We are live. I'm with the Juice Queen, Coach Stiers.
It's a great word, Juice Queen. I like that.
I remember you used to always say that you got to be juicy. You got to be juicy in conditioning.
Gotta be juicy, especially at 6 in the morning. At 6 in the morning, you gotta BYOJ. You gotta bring your own juice.
Yes, 1,000%. You might have to even bring like a little juice box for your teammate and you always brought the juice boxes. You brought the Capri Sun 12-pack for the ones that was sleepy, didn't eat breakfast. You had the juice for us.
Somebody's got to make sure you had the juice, Nia.
Exactly. You did. Before we get started, you introducing yourself and kind of telling your story, I just wanted to say, like, you being in my life, even though it's for a short period of time, you made an impact on me. And I appreciate how, like I said off camera, how you hold people accountable while also loving them. And I think oftentimes, not even in the athletic space, but just in life, we don't know how to really have that balance of telling someone the truth, but still doing it in love and not being afraid of that tension. So I just want to commend you and say, like, that was one of the reasons why you're my favorite coach to have, because you brought it every time. And it was like, if I'm in the gym, I gotta show out because Coach Stiers is gonna be there. She's gonna want me to do good. So I appreciate you.
Those are some good days. I really was, going back, right? Obviously, you and I had some time together, which was, which is what is so special about what we get to do as coaches, is we get to cross paths with young people and hopefully impact them, right? And touch their life in a way that hopefully leaves some, mark of what you have to offer. And I think one of the things that my journey, from being an athlete when I was young, just like all of us kind of had that journey. Obviously, there are some coaches who maybe didn't play a lot. That's certainly plausible, but most of them had some sort of journey with the game. And mine was really one of adversity. I was not a great basketball player when I was a kid. I wasn't fortunate to receive a lot of coaching. It was something that didn't come naturally to me. I was cut in the 8th and 9th grade. I had to beg to be a manager just so that I could be a part of practice. And then I started getting better, right? I worked at it. I got better, but it wasn't in the cards for me in high school. I wasn't recruited in high school, and I was fortunate enough to be a really good track athlete. So I went to Kansas State University on a full track scholarship. And then after a really successful freshman year, and weighing almost, 260 pounds and being an Olympic hopeful, I gave my full track scholarship away at the end of my freshman year after going to a lot of K-State games and thinking that I had the audacity to think that I could play college basketball.
Wow.
And so I transferred to a junior college. I lost 80 pounds and became a junior college All-American. Obviously, there was a lot of hard work in between those things. And then I was recruited at the Division I level, went back to Kansas State. Kansas State was one of the schools that recruited me. I liked it there. I felt comfortable there. My mom and dad could come watch me play, and that was real important at the time. And had a great 3 years there as a Division I basketball player, was an All-American in 1995. And then this is before the WNBA, before the ABL, but was fortunate enough to go overseas and play, and had a really good year in Greece, and came home in the American Basketball League, which was the professional league that put pressure on the WNBA into existence. I played in that league for 3 seasons with the Columbus Quest until it went defunct in 1998. And then I went overseas and played again in Sweden, had a great year there. And then in 2000 was picked up by the Minnesota Lynx, played 3 seasons for the Minnesota Lynx in the WNBA. And then I started and embarked on my coaching career. I really wasn't sure that whole time. I played for almost 10 years after I graduated college. I wasn't really sure about coaching. And I think it really didn't hit me that coaching was for me, I think, until I came back to University of San Francisco the second time, which is where you and I met, and
Mm-hmm.
really fell in love with the culture that we created there and the type of young women that we recruited there, um, and felt like I was making a huge impact. And that was really the first time where I think everything started to kind of click for me.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, one thing kind of led to another, and got my first head coaching opportunity at Cal State East Bay. Had 6 great seasons there, won a couple championships, went to the NCAA tournament, took a program that really didn't have a lot of funding or a lot of
Mm-hmm.
notoriety, and we ended up being ranked top 8 in the country, which was
Wow.
really cool. And then Cal Poly, which is where I'm currently at, recruited me to come here about a year and a half ago now, and so I'm done. I just completed our first season, and now we're getting ready for our second season, and I'm absolutely loving what we're doing. We're laying the foundation of something really great and special. And like we were talking before we started recording, um, trying to really create a space for young people to grow and to thrive and to self actualize. And so the sport, which I'm very passionate about, I've
Yeah.
learned through all of those different stints that I just kind of outlined, really allow you, if you use it correctly, I think, to create a space for young people to grow. And so, as much as I love to compete and win, and that's definitely a part of the recipe and a part of what we do,
Mm.
um, it's very much about we're in the people building industry, and so we
Right.
take that part of what we do really seriously, and we've codified what that looks like. We codified our team building, we codified our virtues, our values, our outcomes, and we do a lot of things in our program that I think make it really special, and I think make it a really great space for people to grow and to learn and to, like you said from the outset, be held accountable. Which is, coaches have a challenging job because they've got to
Yeah.
walk the line with, um, I think, a changing culture of not necessarily respect for authority, but a culture of and of reciprocity. And what I mean by that is
Mm-hmm.
coaches have to be held accountable too. And I think for a long time, the old school narrative was that, um, coaches only held players and young people and other people accountable. And I think now the space is very open, where coaches have to be held accountable as well, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
staying inside certain, I think, lanes,
Mm.
and not going outside certain lanes. I think
Right.
that's part of the culture now that I think is that I've seen change in my coaching career.
Right. Wow. You said so much. I just had like 35 questions pop in my head. No,
A
I
lot.
love it. Um, that's amazing. You talked a lot about culture, cultivating culture. And I've been a part of programs where that was the season we were in, and it's very hard, right, to cultivate a winning culture, to
Mm,
cultivate a culture where teammates respect one another. There's that reciprocity you said between athletes and coaches. How how do you go about in your program keeping the standard, holding people accountable, but also creating a space where they could still learn from you or have a relationship? Like, what is that balance between coach and like personal? How much do
yeah,
you think
it's
is important?
well, I think you have to be really intentional about everything that you do, and I think you have to have a thoroughness of process, and I think it really does matter as much as nobody necessarily likes systems, and nobody necessarily likes processes. I think as a coach, I've kind of geeked out on them, because I think not only do you need one for the X's and O's in the basketball and what goes on the court, and that's one facet of our program, right? And obviously, it's the part that everybody shows up for games. But
Right.
the other part of it is what goes on in the locker room, what goes on in study hall, what goes on in the
Right.
offices. And so, what we've done is we've kind of outlined a really thorough team building process,
Mm-hmm.
that creates and elicits a certain type of culture, and it really is a lens that we look through in terms of the type of people that we recruit. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's often said, but it's never. underestimated, but it's really powerfully true in my opinion and my experience is I think you win with people, and I think um, culture ultimately is about how intentional you are of creating that that language, right? So
Right.
for us, it's about we've got certain words in our program and certain phrases in our program that, like, if I plopped you down in France and you don't know how to speak French, you're going to have a tough time navigating how to get a meal, how to get a hotel, maybe how to
Right.
getting transportation to where you want to go. Um, it's going to be hard for you to acclimate to the culture if you don't know how to speak the language. And I think that's the thing that we've created in our space is a certain language that elicits the kind of respect and trust. And as we go through that process step by step, you
Mm-hmm.
find that our program isn't for everybody. So certain people
Right.
that we recruit, once we kind of give them, a look under the hood, they get the opportunity to go, well, that's not for me, or I'm not interested in
Mm-hmm.
that. That's okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what we are and who we are isn't necessarily going to be for everybody, but the players that we've traditionally found that resonate with who and what we are, um,
Mm-hmm.
they really thrive in our program. And I think the other component of that is our process accelerates um, how well not only do our players work together, which is really the goal, right? Like if you wanted to be a track athlete and just run or swim or play tennis, right? You don't necessarily need a team. I mean, it might take a team of people to help support you, but you're playing
Right.
by yourself, or you're running by yourself, or you're swimming by yourself.
Right.
In our sport, right, you have to be able to work, you know, very much with other people in a
Mm-hmm.
variety of different settings and a variety of different intensity levels and that kind of thing, which is where I think our process really helps everybody kind of weed out the noise, if you will. Like when you
Right.
don't know why you're doing something, or you don't know the purpose behind why you're doing something, um, it
Mm.
allows it allows negativity to creep in, and that
Right.
usually leads down ultimately, I think, athletes' ultimate effectiveness, whether they're being, whether their academics or whether it's their athletics. So I think all of those things really hopefully support performance in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom, and hopefully support performance on the court. And then, trying to really develop this program so that we develop leaders, so that when they
Right.
graduate, right, if all we give you is a jump shot, I think
Mm.
we're falling short of what the platform of what we get to do as collegiate coaches,
Yes.
offer, right? Especially at a
Yeah.
pivotal time in young people's lives.
Yes. No, that's so good. I agree and loved everything you said. Um, because I think there is that temptation, because you have this pressure to perform, it's your job. You could just be like, okay, I just want to get to the next thing. I want to get to the next drill. I want to get to the next
Yeah,
dub. I want to win. But then in the process, you're not teaching young men and women how to be functioning um, people in society that know how to get things done, that know how to be on time, that know how to interact and care about others. So that's so important. And you talked a lot about processes and standards, and I mean ultimately that creates trust. And how important is it for a coach to trust, the players they have, but also the players that trust the coach, right? And when you jeopardize your standards, sometimes I don't think coaches can always realize how that's affecting the players' trust in them. Because like, oh, you say when we do this we get this, but then you change it. Or this person, you say all of us have to be like this, but then certain people get to be like this. And just so, and that's the fine line I think you have to walk, because I know that not everyone's the same also. So I don't think like everyone in all capacities will get the same treatment or the same talking to. But as far as like, I feel like the areas you were talking about were like effort, um showing up,
that's a big thing.
following the rules. That's the biggest thing, right?
Yep.
That
It,
builds trust. So
it does. I think the thing that we talk about in our program, because you're exactly right, Nia. Trust is so foundational, and we recruit players, but then we bring them into our program, and the experience that they have with me is going to be different on the basketball court than it is if they come into the office and we sit
fact.
down and we talk, right? Which is another reason
Mhm.
why we're very intentional about meeting with them outside of the court, is
Mhm.
because I'm going to be one way there and I'm going to be a completely different way there. And I think that's also the challenge for coaches is, can you be consistent? It doesn't mean that we have favorites, but it does mean that you're right. Like, if there's 15 young women on a college basketball team, you know, some of them are going to be more sensitive than others.
Right,
Um,
right,
some of them are going to be tougher than others. So some of
right,
them can take certain things that these other kids can't. And so you have to
right,
phrase things differently in order to keep. It doesn't mean you lower the standard. It doesn't
right.
mean that, but it does mean that maybe you have to as a leader, you have to find a different way to connect with that person, right? And I think that's something that I take very seriously. Is
Mhm.
if someone's underperforming or someone isn't experiencing, we call it thriving, right? If you're not
Right.
thriving in our environment, why is that? Is this something that I'm doing? And so literally, we do a kind of an outline sheet where our players, before they meet with me, kind of get to rate a couple of different things. And one of them is, you know, what do you think we could do different, or what do you think we could do better? So they get an
Mm,
opportunity to make suggestions. And
that's good.
I often find that, when people sit in here and they talk to me face to face, they're much more apt to write it down, and
Mm,
turn it into either one of the assistants or myself, versus necessarily sitting down and having a conversation. But what I've found interesting is that I'm probably as hard as anybody is on players,
mhm.
that I've ever been around. But the players know I'm doing it from a place of love. And I think
Mm.
that's such a that's and I don't know how I'm able to do it either sometimes, because I can hear myself sometimes. I'm like, I am a tyrant right now. And
Right.
I know this young lady or this team right now absolutely, you know, is going, what happened to that nice lady that recruited me?
Right.
Where did she
Mm.
go? But at the end
Mm.
of the day, I do think that they know that we care about them. And like I talked about earlier, Nia, like, that's why you have to have, to me, processes even for keeping players engaged beyond what they do on the court. Because if you don't, then, you know, it ends up being a transactional relationship where
Facts.
I give you a scholarship which says you're going to show up and do, X amount of basketball stuff, X amount of stuff in the weight room, and X amount of stuff to help us recruit, and you're gonna
Right.
get to wear our gear. I feel like there's a whole other elevated level of being a part of a team that, um, it's kind of hard to it's hard to quantify. It's hard to talk about, because I think
Mhm.
it's elusive. I think every coach is after that level of
Yes.
teamwork, and I think some coaches can tap into it a little bit
Right.
better, and some kind of like, I don't know. I use this analogy a lot with our teams, Nia. I feel like everything reminds me of baking, right? Obviously, I don't skip meals. I love to cook, and
Right.
who doesn't love a good cookie? But like, if you pick up a Nestle's Toll House chocolate chip bag of chocolate
Right.
chip, on the back there's a recipe for the cookies, right?
Right.
If you follow the recipe, you're probably going to get a really good cookie.
Right.
Like, there's, you know as well as I do, if you went to the store right now and you did that, you made it the way that it says to be made, you're probably going to get a really tasty cookie. Well, I think every coach has a different way of cooking their ingredients, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think some coaches have really tapped into being consistent and cooking and making a consistent product.
That's good.
And then I think others have, sometimes they're using too much flour. Sometimes you're using
Right.
too much sugar. Sometimes the
Right.
temperature is too high or too low.
Right. Right. That's good.
And I think in basketball, it's accountability, right? Or trust building. or team building, right? Because no matter how you want to slice it and dice it, even if you're an old school coach who looks at everything transactionally, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Maybe the answer when you're in a transactional environment is, well, you just have to have the most talent. But
Right.
what we're really interested in here is like being inspired and playing
Mhm.
inspired, doing
Yeah.
things that inspire others, so that if you
Yep.
came and watched us play, you would leave going, man, that is some incredible teamwork.
Right.
Like if if the game is teamwork, then let's be
Yep.
really great at that. And how do we do that? That's the answer to that isn't very is not simple. And
Yes.
and I think the same way that biology and psychology professors geek out on, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hierarchies of success or hierarchies of human development or whatever it is, or formulas for biology and geometry, I think coaches geek out on how do I get this group
Yep.
to overachieve or to perform at a really high level. and
Yeah.
then and then what are your metrics? Are you judging only wins and losses? Are you judging statistics? Are you judging, or are you judging things with your own eyes in terms of, is a player developing? Like when I got them, they couldn't shoot, and now they're graduating and they're one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. Like, what are
Right.
your metrics,
Right.
and how do you measure your, I guess, your
Mm.
efficiency, your productivity as a coach? Those are all other things that I think, you know, coaches geek out on in terms of, how can I tell if I'm doing a good job? For me, you can just tell by, is the young lady thriving? Is she happy? Is she, and
Mm.
it starts there with a lot of other little things, but then their play is usually reflective of the kind of
Yeah.
experience, the kind of experience that they're having in your program too.
1,000%. 1,000%. It definitely is one of those things where it's like, how do I get there? But when you see it, you know it's there, and
Mm,
it's powerful and it's contagious.
yes,
And we people talk about it all the time. You have those teams that aren't as talented and they're winning
yes,
games.
that's right.
Why is that? Because they have
Correct.
each other's back. They care more about, the
Yep.
girl, the guy next to me than just me getting all what I want. They trust
Yep.
in the coach. The coach has trust in the, you know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it is definitely something that's understandable to be like, how do I get this? Um, so I agree. It takes those processes and systems, and having
Yes.
the humility is what I'm hearing you say, to be like, okay, what can I do better? How can I grow? Right? Because I'm asking my players to grow. How can I grow? And kind of figure out, how to get people in the best position. Because I
Well,
will
that's
say, like, it doesn't matter if someone has a really bad attitude or what their background is. If they're feeling good, they're gonna be high fiving their teammate. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
they're gonna
right.
be doing stuff out of their character.
That's right.
So I interrupt you. What'd you say?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, that's the part about it that's so fascinating is, how do you get people to buy into that? And I think that's where you're kind of hitting all the touchstones. Like, we've got in our program, we've got virtues, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
humble, right? So humility, like you just mentioned it. And I can't expect our players to want to have a constant improvement mindset if I'm not looking at what we can
Mm-hmm.
constantly do to get better. And I will say, that's one of the things that we really try to pride ourselves in, is how are we taking what we do and making it
Right.
even better. I'm already
Exactly.
thinking, we just finished our summer session last Friday, and I'm already thinking about how can we make next summer better. This summer was awesome. And it was
Mm-hmm.
great to see the girls in the gym, out of the gym, the team building. You know, we did a What's Your Why lecture. We did all these different things. We did a Cal Poly Olympics with them, swimming challenges, shooting challenges. But how can we make it better? What else can
Mm-hmm.
we do next summer? Obviously within the rules,
Right. Right.
because the NCAA monitors, all of those things. But how
Yeah.
can we make it better? And that's
Right.
what we're always looking at, is like, what can we do now that takes us to the next level and continue to elevate what we're doing. And I think when you
Yeah.
have that mindset as a leader, then
Mm-hmm.
your players tend to pick up on that vibe. Because if you ask anybody, Nia, off the street, right, and
Mm-hmm.
and you ask them, do you want to be great? They'll
Right.
say yes. very few people are going to go, no, I'm cool. No, I'm good where I'm
Right.
at. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's figuring out, do you have limiting beliefs that are holding you back? Or
Mm,
have you not done enough physically? Because it's probably one of the two things, right? It's either you've got some sort of mental block, because we always tell our players, you're capable of way more than you think you are,
that's
right?
good. Yeah.
If I asked you, Nia, do you look back at your college career and go, man, I'm maxed out. I did everything in my power to be the very best that I could be. And if you do, you can really lay your head down at night and go, I did everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
But you know as well as I do, there's those players that they either had some sort of mental block where they were
Wow.
telling themselves that they couldn't do it, or they weren't good enough, and they
That's good.
couldn't get over whatever was going on inside their head, or they didn't put the work in. And it's usually one of those two things.
I love that. No, that's so good. And I can imagine as a coach, you see somebody, right? It's like, wow, you could be so good if you
Yes.
just got if you believe this. I mean,
Yes.
I had that with my 3-point shot. My mid-range was always chef kiss. But my threes, like that was a mental block for me. And all summer I was juicy, I was hitting, and then it came to season and I wasn't, as high as I wanted it to be in my percentage. But that was a belief. That's one area. So I that is so good. I love how you quantify it. Like it's either a belief or you're not doing enough work. That's very true.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's usually what it comes down to.
right. That's so good. And how do I get this person to believe in the work they put in? I guess your job as a coach, right? Like how do I get you to believe in me and the program and in you?
Right. Well, and
That's a
I think
lot.
that's, playing, usually with coaches, playing time is usually the biggest lever or leverage that we can use to motivate somebody. And I think
Yeah.
what we talk a lot about is what kind of competitor are you, right? And there's four types of
Mhm.
competitors, right? There's the victims, like everything's happening against me and woe is me and this isn't working out. And then there's contenders, right? There's people that I'm motivated by the gear that I'm going to get. People come to the games. Am I going to get an NIL deal? Is there
Mm,
money involved? Is there
right.
playing time involved? There's external factors, right? And then there's true competitors who, they're trying to PR every day of their life. They're trying to maximize their potential. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter who's in the gym, who's not in the gym, on and on and on. But then the fourth level is a commander, right? And we talk about a commander, like, are you bringing somebody along with you? And that's
Wow.
the that's the hardest thing to do, I think, especially
Mm,
for young women. Is most young women in the environment that we're in, it's a very challenging environment to be a college athlete. We know that, very challenging. But can you bring somebody along with you? And if you're one of those people, if you can get somebody like that on your team, it's a game changer, because
yeah.
most people are just trying to keep their head above water. And
Seriously. Seriously.
and and can we bring somebody with us, and then can we thrive in that?
That's
And
so good.
so, but I think one of the things that we talk about too in our program is, if you know better, you do better. If you talk about it, it shines light on things. And I think when you're the demographic that we get to work with, Nia, is 18 to 22. That's typically,
Right.
kind of the age bracket that we work at. Well, anybody who's 18 to 22 is still trying to figure life out, let alone college basketball.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly.
how can you assist them in achieving their dreams? And that's really the coolest part about what we get to do, is we get to help people, you know, chase their dreams.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. That is so dope. I want to
You're
respect your time, so I'm gonna ask one more quick question,
Let's
if
do
that's
it.
okay.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
So you've been at all levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
JUCO,
Yep.
cop D1, pro, professional. A lot of kids today, they say, I want to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
What does that take to actually get there? Whether it's college, professional, because I often find there's this gap,
Mm-hmm.
this cognitive dissonance. So, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to be great. I'm going to be a star. And maybe they're not putting in the work in the gym or.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
what do you believe it takes?
Well, I think it's such a great question, and I think it's the age old question that probably has the age old answer. That, and again, it's so easy to say, but it's much harder to do. But I think that
Mm-hmm.
there's, in order, like we call it massive action, right? If you really want something that you've never had before, you've got to take massive action. So what makes people extraordinary in terms of getting to the next level is like, if I want to operate at a high school level, and again, no disrespect to any of the high school programs out there, because there's a lot of great programs out there. Did I lose you, Nia? You still there?
Um, yes, I'm still here.
Okay.
Okay.
There you are. But like, if you really want to be extraordinary, it's just doing the ordinary things, but doing them extra.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you look at Olympians or you look at people that have played professional athletics, they tend to have a different kind of mindset about challenges and about things that are tedious in nature. And so you talk about what it takes to get to the next level. Like, let's just use karate for instance. What most people don't know is, to be a black belt in karate, you got to master 7 moves. Well, it doesn't
Right.
sound very hard, but how many people are black belts in karate?
Right.
And in basketball, for instance, there's probably about 7 things that you need to be really good in, really proficient in. And most pros are good in probably, or elite in probably five, at least five
Mm-hmm.
of them. And so, it's ball handling, shooting, passing, defending, rebounding, screening, like some version of that thing. And so that's usually what it takes. It takes an extraordinary commitment to do, just ordinary things, but do them extra. And that's what makes people extraordinary. So whenever you look at somebody who, and I think that there's also that give and take of how much talent you're actually naturally born with, right?
Yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
God gives us all different levels of talent or ability, right?
Right.
We can look at Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James and go, okay, well, these cats were born with extraordinary physical gifts.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a lot, but they've put a lot of work in to take their game, because you still have to refine certain things to be elite. You can't just show. I mean, you even look at Giannis, the work that he puts in. He's known for his work ethic, and so you know anybody who's done anything extraordinary, there's usually, like we talked about before, there's usually a recipe. So we
Yeah.
always say in the program, um, success leaves clues.
Mm-hmm.
Success is usually a mindset, and then extraordinary daily habits, like doing the little things extra that other people aren't willing to do, and to do them harder and longer with more focus than other people. And we talk about, you got to get bored to get better. Like, you have to be really redundant, because doing the hard thing, it's going to become tedious at some point, and doing it over and over and over again. But it's that one extra rep every day. It's that one extra 5-minute segment every day that stretches you and extends you and makes you uncomfortable and stretches you beyond what you're capable of. And I think that's really what it comes down to is, you know, everyone's trying to go bigger, faster, stronger. And if you really want to get to the next level, I think those are the things that you got to do. You got to have an elite mindset. You got to train your mind to make no excuses. You have to have elite daily habits, and you've got to do ordinary things extra, way more than everybody else is doing them. And then that's going to elevate what you do. So it could be, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a musician. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an elite podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever it is, can you do the ordinary thing extra? And I think that's what really elevates you and takes you to the next level.
Yeah. That's good. I love that. You have so many good phrases that are powerful and but yet simple that helps
Mm-hmm.
a person remember. So I love that. You got to get bored to get better.
Got to get
Because
bored to
sometimes
get.
you can feel like, okay, I'm doing my
Uh-huh.
little or whatever, but you have to do that well. It translates to all other
Yep.
areas. I agree.
That's mental, right? Because you're like, well, well, just oh my, how many of these I got to do? And
Mhm.
most young players, and you're just you're mimicking shooting, so I'm gonna just touch on that real quick. Most players think they go to the gym a little bit extra for 2 or 3 days, and they should see incredible
Wow.
results.
Right.
And it's day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. There are literally no overnight successes,
Yeah,
and people that we think are overnight successes have been grinding,
that's so good. So
and I think that's when you hear all the. So I think the other piece of advice I would have is like get around people that are at a higher level or where you want to be. Don't
good.
don't want to be a pro and then go hang out with um, people that got cut from their fifth grade team. You
Right.
know, you want to be a pro, go figure out where the pros hoop at. I wanted to be a college basketball player. I went where all the guys played pickup. I got
Yep.
around them. I let that get in me, and that was way before the computer, YouTube, and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
There's so much access to information now, and I always have a podcast, a master class, a YouTube, a TED talk playing in my ear when I'm not talking to somebody. I'm listening to
Hmm.
somebody giving me insight or reaffirming my beliefs about things that I can do to get better or to improve. And I think when you're driven like that and you're focused like that, it's amazing how the universe kind of conspires to give you all the tools that you need because they're out there. Whether you're
Yep.
paying for them or there's probably somebody willing to work with you for free and
Right.
help you better or elevate what you're doing. So that's the other thing I would suggest is find the resources, whether it's on your phone or whether it's through word of mouth, where you're getting around somebody who knows better and humble yourself to get underneath them and learn from them. So
Yeah.
I think mentorship's another big thing that I think is really important. So
Yeah. That's good. That is so good. I loved it. You're teaching me. I was taking mental notes for myself. That was excellent. Yes, right here.
I miss you, Nia. I miss you, and I'm so happy that you had such a great college career. I'm really proud of you, and um, it's fun seeing you take the next step with your experience now and
Hmm.
helping put, I think, great programming out there and great information out there. So I wish you a lot of luck on this, and I'm excited to see what you do with it. There's no doubt that it's gonna be big time. So tell all my peeps in the Northwest
Hmm.
to tune in because they need to be listening to what you're putting out there. This is good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Grateful for you, and I'm wishing you guys the best of season this year.
Hey, we're coming to Seattle U,
Oh, okay.
um, November 21st.
Okay.
That's a Tuesday, so it
Yes,
wouldn't
ma'am.
it wouldn't,
I'll be there.
it wouldn't be the
With
worst
my
thing to.
Nevada on, though. With my Nevada on. I
I
can't really. Yeah.
don't know.
Like,
I don't. We're not playing Nevada.
this year?
No,
Oh, okay, okay.
we need to
Maybe I'll
though.
wear USF because Cal Poly's green, and then we could kind of connect that way with the color.
We can do it, or I can bring you a Cal Poly. I'll bring you a Cal Poly sweatshirt.
Oh, I'll have it over my shoulder.
Whoa, like that, huh? Like that.
No, I'll wear it for you. I'll wear it for you.
Okay,
For
well,
sure.
I appreciate that. I know you repping the Wolf Pack, so but very,
Yes.
very proud of you. Tell your mom and dad and tell your family that we love them and good luck with this. Okay, keep me posted on how I can help.
Yes, I will for sure. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your
Same.
time.
Great talking
Yes.
to you. Yeah. All right,
All
love you, kiddo.
right.
All right,
Love
be
you
good.
too. Yep.